Hey guys, I hope you're all doing okay. Today I wanted to share something a little bit different that hopefully those of you who are artists will find helpful. I wanted to go through and walk you through how I edit my watercolor paintings after scanning them, and also share some of my thoughts on this HUION tablet that was recently gifted to me. This isn't a sponsored video or anything, but I was sent this tablet for free in exchange for sharing my honest opinion with you guys. So this is the Artwork H950P. It's a drawing tablet. Right now it's priced at $79.99 on the HUION website. The active space where you can draw on it is about just under 9 inches by about 5.5 inches. It has 8,192 levels of pin pressure sensitivity, which is a little over twice as much as the Intuos drawing tablet that I had before. The full size of it is just under 13 inches by 7.5 inches, and it is less than 1/4 of an inch thick. It's super light and it has 8 express keys. I'll get to more of my opinion a bit later in the video, but for now let's get started on scanning our artwork. So we're going to start by scanning in our paintings. I like to scan mine in at a pretty high DPI if I plan on making them into prints. So I'm going to scan mine in at 900 DPI, but what you use is really up to you. And then I'm actually going to scan them twice. And the reason is, as you can see, this paper has a pretty heavy texture to it, and that'll be pretty noticeable in the scan. So one of the main things I want to do while editing my paintings is reducing the watercolor paper texture as much as possible. So I'm going to scan the painting once, then rotate it 180 degrees and scan it again. Next, I'm going to take those scanned images and drop them into a editing software like Photoshop or Medibang, which is what I will be using. So I will get my drawing tablet for this next part. And this is where things can get a bit tedious, but taking your time will really pay off. So first we're going to start by taking this first level, or the top level, and we're going to turn the opacity down to about 50%. And then we're going to take these, going to line them up. I'm going to use the transform tool and zoom up on the corners, make sure they're all aligned. And then we're also going to take a look at the eyes. It's pretty lined up, so I'm going to accept that. And then when you zoom out, you can click on and off that top level to see the difference. And you see that made a major difference on the texture of the paper. It's so much smoother now. Personally, this normally takes me a while, so just take your time and try to make it as perfect as possible. But yeah, it's pretty cool the difference that can make. And now with probably the most time consuming part out of the way, I'm going to save this as a PNG. And now it is time to fix the colors, so I'm going to take that image we just exported and drop it into a photo editing software. I'm going to use GIMP. If you're using Photoshop though, you can just merge your layers and do all this from Photoshop. Okay, so here's our image. We're going to adjust the colors because when you scan things, a lot of the times they will come out a bit dull and the colors aren't really accurate to the original painting. So how you do this will depend a little bit on how your screen is calibrated and how everything works with your printer. So you may need to play with it a little bit before you find out what exactly works for you. For example, my last printer printed everything a bit dark and a bit oversaturated. So before I sent images to them, I would lighten the image up and take the saturation down just a bit. So once that's imported, I like to start with making the whites white and the blacks really black. So we're gonna go into levels under colors. I learned how to do this originally in Photoshop, but I don't really remember where this is at in Photoshop, but I'd assume that if you're using Photoshop, you probably know where everything is at. So a little information on levels. You can use this to adjust brightness, contrast, and tones a little bit by moving these little sliders. Since every image is a little bit different, there's no exact way to do this. It will be different for every picture you do. So these sliders represent the complete black, complete white, and midtones. So ideally you want the image to be using the full range from black all the way up to white. As you can see, mine cuts off here about at the first line, and this is on the black side. So we're gonna fix this by adjusting the sliders a little bit. Just going to take this and bring it up to the end here. And then I'm going to make the whites white by using this. You can do this with the sliders too, but I find that sometimes this is a bit quicker. I'm just going to select the side of the page here. And that just tells the slider that this part is the whitest part. And then I'm going to adjust the levels for each color, just bringing it up pretty close to the edge of where the color drops off. You don't want to go too far because you'll miss out on all of your subtle changes. So we're just going to put it right here. And as you do that, you can see it change your photo, and it's going to really bring the colors out. Especially in this image, it's going to bring out those dark colors a lot more since this was a bit washed out from scanning. And you can see now how much more like the original this is. I recommend keeping the painting next to you while you're working on this so you can compare them as you go. And then we'll do one last step while working in GIMP. I'm going to go to Filters, Enhance, and Unsharp Mask just to sharpen up the image a little bit. I don't always do this, but I figure I will go ahead and show you guys while we're here. And I'm going to pick a spot like the eye, somewhere where there's a lot of detail. I leave most of the settings as they are, but most of the time it's a bit much, so I'm going to take this amount and cut it in half, put it at 0.25. So it's just a slight little adjustment there. So this will just make it a tiny bit sharper. And then I will export this as a PNG again and drop it back into Medibang one more time. First, I'm going to check to make sure the canvas size is the right size. This painting is 8x10. And then I'm going to center the painting, and I will use the comic guidelines for this, because I already have it set up to have the perfect borders and everything on the right size. Next, I'm going to make a few slight corrections, like removing any pencil marks or any hairs that might have been on the scanner while I was scanning this. And this is really where the tablet will be a huge help. It's so much easier to do stuff like this while using a pen, especially since when I do stuff like this, I usually do it in batches, so I'll be editing multiple photos. So I'll be at this for a couple hours, so it really helps to be comfortable. It has 8 express keys, which are great. I have mine set up for things I use really often, like Control-Z. Then I have one set to brush, eraser, and then selection tools, deselect, shift, just stuff I use really often, which most of it is used for photo editing and then also sketching. But they're completely customizable, so you can put whatever works for you in those slots. It also has tilt sensitivity for responding whether the pen is tilted while drawing, if you have a program that recognizes that, which I think is awesome. So I'm really happy with this tablet, and I would definitely recommend it to especially beginners who are looking for a tablet that is easy to use and isn't too expensive. The only main downside that I have found, in my opinion anyways, is the lack of multi-touch, or it doesn't respond to your hand, so you can't use it like a trackpad or use your fingers to pinch to zoom. That's only a really small thing though, so it doesn't really affect how I feel about it. And I think I can probably set some of the buttons on the pen to take over that. So while I'm working on removing any blemishes from this painting, I wanted to talk a little bit about the pros of this tablet. My list of pros is actually a lot longer than I expected it to be, because I actually really love this tablet. I've even started to do more digital sketching since receiving it. The setup was extremely fast. I expected it to take a lot longer, so I actually set aside about an hour just to set it up, but downloading the drivers and getting it ready to go probably took less than a minute. It was extremely straightforward and easy, and it took like no time at all. In my opinion, it's the perfect size for sketching. I've already talked about this a little bit, but since it's a little bit larger than just a tiny little square, you have a little bit more room to move your arm, which I think will save my wrist a lot. It also comes with this pen stand, which hopefully will help me from losing my pen so often. And inside there are extra nibs and there's the nib puller on the back. The pen is really nice and comfortable. It has a grippy sleeve here and the buttons there, which I find super comfortable to hold, which is great again if you're going to be working with something for hours. You kind of want it to feel nice in your hand. The drawing surface is super smooth and feels great to sketch on. So on the painting, after finishing all of the corrections, we need to go in and clean up the borders. I'm going to use the Comic Guideline settings again. I'm just going to cover those with white boxes up to the blue guideline, and that'll make it look a lot cleaner. And then lastly, I will save the image as a PNG. And then here you guys can see what we started out with, and the finished edited painting looks a lot more like the original, so I'm really happy with this. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. There will also be links to everything I talked about and the music in the description. I will see you soon for the next video. Bye.